Hello, hello. We are just getting started here. It is day 4 of Discoverfest. We have Pam Caughey with us today, who I've had the pleasure of hosting a workshop with before, and I love watching. So I'm very, very excited for this one. Well, I see folks already in the chat. What we would love is let us know you can hear us. That would be great. Feel free to tell us, where are you writing in from? Where are you joining us from today? And let us know you can see and hear us before we really jump into the presentation. We want to make sure everything works. Pam, why don't you say hi? Let's make sure they can hear you as well.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's great to have you, even though I can't see you.
You can see me.
Well.
Okay, great. And I see folks saying they can see and hear us. That's wonderful. We'll get started in just a few moments. Pam's workshop today is the 9 stages of creativity, how to divide and conquer the painting process. Like I said, I'm personally super excited to see this workshop. I have family members who are watching today, Pam. I sent my mom the link because I sent you the last replay and she loved it.
Yeah.
The folks who are joining the chat, letting us know you can see and hear us, we really appreciate it. One of the things we always ask in the chat as well is let us know as the workshop goes on if you have any questions. Let us know if there's any topics you'd love for Pam to cover perhaps at the end during the Q&A portion. Pam's presentation is going to be 30 to 45 minutes, and we'll definitely leave some time for some Q&A. So use this chat to your advantage. Put the questions you have for Pam today. And with that, Pam, I said to you earlier, the folks today, not everyone here knows you. We have folks who are coming in from Discoverfest. This is their first time seeing your incredible presentation. So why don't you share a bit about yourself? And if you want, I'll bring your screen up too whenever you're ready.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I kind of give a little bit about my background in the presentation. So I guess if you're ready to get started, then I'm ready too.
Cool. Bringing your screen up, Pam.
All right. It's my job.
We're in. Right. 9 stages of creativity.
There we go. Everybody see that okay? Yes, Aaron?
Perfect. Sorry, I'm giving a thumbs up.
Okay, thank you.
I see it perfectly.
Okay, so 9 stages of creativity, and welcome everybody to this presentation. I so appreciate you being here, and I just hope that you're doing okay around the world, that you're staying safe and staying healthy as best you can, and most of all, being creative. So the topic of today's presentation is different from the one I did a month ago. This is called How to Divide and Conquer the Painting Process. So it's a little different. There's some things that are similar, but creativity is the process of solving problems, not just in art, but in life. And this is something that I just so believe in, that the more creative you are in any way, you're cooking, you're gardening, you're painting, if you're making quilts or whatever you're doing, the more you do those things, you have to problem solve. And then that carries over to your life situations. We all have challenges and problems in life. So the balance between creativity and life, they are interconnected. And the more you develop this ability to be creative, just be creative, you're going to be dealt problem after problem after challenge after challenge. And as you overcome them, you're going to become even better at making solutions. So that's why creativity is just so important in our lives. So this presentation is about painting, but you may be a creative in another area. That's okay, because I think that you can apply this to everything you do that's creative. So why am I showing Damar resin? On the left-hand side are 3 chunks of Damar resin, and I use this in encaustic. Encaustic is a painting process where I paint with molten wax, if you don't know about the process. Now, on the right-hand side, though, notice that it's been broken into pieces. If I were to try and melt this on a hot plate, it would take me a long, long time. But when you break it into chunks, into smaller pieces, guess what? It becomes easier. And this is my metaphor for today. Let's break down this process into bite-sized pieces. Divide and conquer. Because painting is not easy. At least not for me. I'm here because I love to teach what I learn. And I learned it all the hard way. And there is a better way. And I will always show you the better way so that you won't struggle like I did. These are some shots of various workshops I've done. These shots come from I've done so many workshops in Mineral Point, Wisconsin. And so these are some photos from there. So where did I begin and why should you listen to me? I began in biochemistry. That was the journey that I first went on in my late teens and early 20s. It just wasn't a good fit for me. And I kind of felt that a few years into the program, but I'm not the kind of person who quits and, starts over. So I went full force ahead and just about had a nervous breakdown. Many years of, less than mental wellness followed. And I had a lot of struggles in life. You wouldn't recognize me, just trust me on that one. But in time, I don't know, about 10 years into not being well, I decided to pursue art because I had a lot of support from my husband, and I had a newborn, and he said, hey, why don't you just paint? So I did. Even though deep down, I was told long ago, by my parents and just other people that if I wanted to be an artist, I'm going to starve. So that's kind of hard if that's the kind of thing you're told. And a lot of you on this presentation who are watching, you've been told the very same thing. So I know I'm not the only one, but that's why I'm sharing this with you. So for me, success was up and down. I worked in a ton of mediums, jumping from one to another, thinking, gosh, I'm stuck in this medium. It must be the medium's fault. I'm going to move over to this one because it can't be me. It must be the medium. But I got stuck again and again and again. This happened for 20, 25 years. I had so much fear, so much doubt, and so much procrastination that I had a hard time getting into my studio. And oftentimes people would say, oh, you paint so late in the night. Yeah, but it was because I couldn't get in there. I had way too much fear. The only time I could get into my studio was when everything else was done and I could not make any more excuses. So, and I also had a very hard time calling myself an artist. People would say, what do you do? And I think the last thing that came to mind was that I was an artist. I couldn't say that. But I did overcome my obstacles. It took time. It took me 30 years, but I did my homework. And for me, my science background, I think served me well. So I never regret anything that happened because I think everything does happen for a purpose, even when it's really hard and awful. But I turned my art into a science. And for those of you who watch my YouTube channel, you can see that sometimes I'm showing you the experiments I've done to everything about materials and the paper I use and the paints I use. So between 1986 and 2016 is when I did kind of that homework. I really invested the time. I went through countless workshops and mentorships. A lot of you have done that as well. I eventually ended up in grad school. I didn't have a background in art. I didn't have a BFA. I didn't have a BA. But I applied to the grad school after I took 30 studio credits. I had to take the credits first at the University of Montana and then apply to the grad school, got in, thankfully, and got my MFA in 2010. So now I'm a full-time artist and I teach and I exhibit in the US and abroad. That's my background. For those of you who are not familiar with my YouTube channel, I encourage you to take a look just because everything there is for free. And over the last, say, 2 years, I've pretty much documented, I don't want to say everything I've done in the studio, but it just became this thing where I wanted to document what I was doing. And I found that other people wanted to look over my shoulder. I had no idea this would happen. It just completely caught me by surprise. But you want to subscribe because that lets you know you get an email when I post a new video. So when you go to this link here, you're going to hit the subscribe button, and then you'll see a little notification bell that pops up. Now, if you want to get a notification when I post a new video, click the bell, and then you're good. You will always know when I post a new video. So my mission in teaching is to share everything I've learned over 30 plus years with you so that you can succeed faster. I don't like to see people struggle because I remember how painful that was. It's horrible. But Pam, isn't painting easy? It's funny because I'm a non-objective artist, and granted, my art looks like maybe a 3-year-old did it, but it is not easy. That's what is so kind of interesting about the whole topic here. It is not like going from A to B. It is not a straight line. And here's why. Again, I bring you back to this metaphor of the Damar resin chunk. The reason why I came up with the 9 stages of creativity, it was out of necessity. Because when I walked in the studio, this is where I was. This is where you walk into your studio and you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to create a masterpiece. It is paralyzing, it's overwhelming, and you're not going to go in your studio if you feel this way. But when I broke it down into pieces, which is the 9 stages of creativity, I started to look at the painting process is this. I can handle a small chunk here, which is like opening the door to my studio. I can handle this chunk here. Maybe I'll organize some paints or whatever. Maybe I'll clean some brushes. That's another chunk. Maybe I'll just cut some paper, okay? So you break the process down into bite-sized pieces so that you can have playful beginnings, your problems become step stools, and you have happy conclusions. This is my 9 stages of creativity in kind of a chart format because it's meant to be visual. We are visual creatives here. It is helpful to see things this way instead of like a big page of text. So I love this quote. It's an old Chinese proverb, and I'm sure all of you have heard it, but a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And I think that so applies to us. I'm not going to tell you a lot about this flowchart just yet. I'm going to walk you through it, but the topic is 9 stages of creativity to discover your personal voice. And this is a flowchart that I have in my Powerful Design and Personal Color course. And my sole intent with my course is to help people find their personal voice by using these broken down pieces so that they can get to the top. So what is this? Let's take a closer look at the 9 stages of creativity. So the thing about, it's like a game board, right? In any game, you're going to start at one place and hopefully get to the end. You want to win the game, right? And so this is the beginning of our little chart here. You may have fear, you may have frustration, procrastination, unfinished work, multiple styles, and confusion. Now, everything I just told you about my background should tell you that I'm speaking from experience because this was me. Okay, this might have my name on it, okay, in big, bold letters. But where I wanted to be was up here. I wanted to be productive. I wanted to have momentum. I wanted to understand design and color. I wanted to be sensitive, and I wanted my work to be sensational. But again, that big clump of Damar resin was like, I can't go from here to there. I don't know, how do I do it? So I broke that resin down into 9 steps. Now, granted, this is my own personal process, but I found after working with hundreds of students in my courses and live workshops that it does apply to many, many artists. And if it doesn't, you need to kind of tweak it so it becomes your own. But essentially, you're going to follow these little arrows and then notice that they go both ways. But you start down here where things are kind of easy. Imagine you're on a treadmill and you're just like warming up. This is the warm-up stage. This is where on your treadmill, you start to get those you're starting to climb the mountain and it's getting harder and you're huffing and puffing and oh my gosh, you want to quit, right? It's like, I want to get off this treadmill. But then you get to the top and this is cool down, okay? So I'm going to explain a little bit more about this chart. Again, this is my personal process. I hope it will help you like it has helped me and the hundreds of artists I've worked with. But if not, create a path that works for you. And I think I should grab my little cursor here to make it a little easier in case. All right, now, so you walk into your studio or your workshop, your space for where you're creative, and the first thought is, I have to create a masterpiece. So obviously, this is an image of a brain. Some of you may or may not know that you have a left brain and a right brain. The left brain is the one that's critical, okay? It has an agenda. It wants success, and it doesn't want anything but success. It better be good. It's going to say to you, what do you think you are, an artist? Hang it up and get a real job. Is the side of your brain that is analytical, logical, critical, verbal, and dominant. So on the right-hand side is your right side of your brain, which is creative. It's emotional, it's visual, it's sensitive, and in most cases, it's non-dominant. Notice how I've faded the text. It's not as dark and bold as over here. The text is smaller and it's not bold because this is the sensitive side of you. This is the part that says, when I go in my studio, I just want to express myself. I don't need to create a masterpiece. I have so much to say. And art is my refuge. I'm overwhelmed when I think about a masterpiece. And then it's like, I think I'll just go home. That's after the left brain has kind of like put the right brain in its place. So how can you quiet your left brain critic? Because that's really crucial. And in my case, that shut me down so many times. But I did find a way to quiet my left brain. Give the left brain what it does not want. What is that? An ugly mess, AKA play. So the moment that you start to play and have fun and make a mess and make an ugly mess, your left brain is basically so not interested in what you're doing. And it's going to leave you alone. And you're going to be able to play without that critical thought because your left brain has tuned out. So when you begin a painting with play, which is the beginning here of this journey you're going to be on, you eliminate self-criticism. You eliminate fear of getting started, fear of failing, doubt, procrastination. And here's why it's considered to be like, the warm-up phase, because it's supposed to be easy. It can't be hard or you're not going to do it. So for me, I broke it down into, okay, well, I've got to pick my palette, right? And I don't care if it's like a limited palette or every color that's in my studio. That doesn't matter. You got to start with some colors. Stage 2, just mix them up, right? And there are many ways that you can mix your colors. And I talk a lot about this in my course because that in itself is very important. There are many, many ways to get a lot of different colors from even 1, 2, or 3 colors if you know what you're doing. And then stage 3 is you've mixed your colors, now just put them down. It doesn't matter what it looks like, okay? So to further go on with what play is, you're going to use different tools, different marks, different shapes. Your attitude is anything goes. You're going to play, you're going to have fun, and you're going to have joy. That's your goal. If you're not having fun, you're probably thinking too much. In the play stages, there's no judgment, there's no criticism, there's no fear, and that's because your left brain has taken a nap, okay? It's truly magical. This is what I discovered. When the left brain senses that you play and you're not having a care in the world, it takes off post haste. It realizes it's not needed, it's not appreciated, and it will gladly take a nap until you're ready to get serious. The left brain says, I'm out of here. And the right brain says, hey, it's time to play. So here I am playing on this really large canvas. But wait a minute, aren't we too old to play? And now I have to see if I can get this little guy to, this is actually a video, and I don't know, sometimes I have a hard time with, I think I have to, there we go. All right, so these are students from a master class. These are 3 adults who are playing. Okay, so thank you, Yola, Judy, and Terry for letting me show you adults playing like children. Okay, now, so it took me a good year to learn how to play. And I want you to think about that. It took me a year. So the more tightly wound up you are, which is what I was, the longer it's going to take you to really get into this. But my top tips then would be to give yourself time. If you're thinking you need to try and let go, let me just grab my pointer again. One thing that really helped me was to extend my tools with a dowel rod. And you can see over here in this image that, just simple chip brushes and moppy type things and string and rubber bands were just duct taped onto a dowel rod. Somehow extending your tool takes away your control, and that in itself is a form of play. Using your left hand or your non-dominant hand, use colors you've never used, bring out the crayons, which, kind of means any mark making tool is fair game. I'm using a mop over here to spread some graphite onto these white panels. It's easy to do and it's fun. Try playing with a friend or a kid or a teen. Invite them into your studio. I did that one Thanksgiving. I had our son, and at that time, his fiance come in, and I had them grab some paint bottles and just like drip paint everywhere. And then, of course, I had to deal with it after they went home. It was really challenging. And don't think about results. Be your inner child. At the end of play, what do you have? It might be a mess, but don't worry. Ugly is good. Why is ugly good? This is what I've found. This is from my experience, and I hope that you find this to be the truth for you. You're going to have freedom. After all, it can't get any worse. You are at the bottom. That's how we feel, right? We're at the bottom. What about taking a risk? I mean, you're going to take a risk because why wouldn't you? You have nothing to lose. Yeah, you've got nothing to lose, and that's the attitude. Major challenges lead to creative problem solving. Once you know what ugly is, you can strive for what ugly is not. So how do you know what you want if you don't know what you don't want? Ugly helps you discover what you'd rather have. Ugly helps you discover your personal voice, your artistic DNA. You cannot know what you want until you realize what you don't have. And in this blue box down here, massive opportunities for growth. This is what I've found is that the more I ended up in this situation, sure, I could have quit, but if I didn't quit, that's when I had the most massive and fast growing in my studio. So let's just leave this play stage now, and we're going to move up in this chart, right? It's kind of like it goes both ways, but we're hoping to progress from this little orange circle to this one. So now we're going to go up here to the middle tier. And I kind of compare this as a metaphor to being a teenager, because your painting is kind of growing up. So if something's ugly coming out of the play stage, you want to break it down. These 3 stages help us turn ugly around. And for me, this is where I spend the most time. I want to emphasize that this is normal. So let me show you what I mean. This up here, the higher we go, the more mentally well we are, like the more happy we are. So as we go up here, we're happy, right? But on the bottom part here, we're not feeling so good. And this section right here is the play stage. Well, it's fun. You're feeling pretty happy here. But then, you want your painting to grow up, and all of a sudden, boom, you're like, oh my gosh, it's ugly. Maybe I'll try some things. Oh, it's a little better. Oh no, it's worse again. It's better. Now it's worse. It's better. Oh my gosh, I just ruined it. Okay, does this sound like what happens to you? Because that's what I experienced. But, and that's why this explore stage is the largest. You're going to spend the most of your time in this middle, these middle 3 stages, because playing isn't very hard. And I found that by the time you've been through the battle of explore and you hit these final stages of clarify, I mean, you're feeling pretty good. This is like the highest you're going to feel pretty happy. But it's very important when you get to this point here, like below, this is below your mental wellness line. You're feeling pretty crappy. This is where a lot of artists quit. The painting either gets gessoed over, it gets torn up, gets thrown away. I don't know. You can fill in the blank. For my students, I tell them not to quit, and they're really good about it. They don't quit. And I really love that, because they then move on from here to here to here. I've seen it again and again and again. So the explore stage, these are the questions you want to ask yourself. What don't I have? What haven't I tried? What do I love? What you're doing is you're looking for treasure, glimmers of hope. The activity is you're going to layer paint, you're going to conceal it, you're going to take it away, which is when you reveal it. You're going to experiment. And you're going to think like a teenager. What does a teenager do? They take risks and they discover what they love. They don't want puppy love, they want real love. And from their teenage years onward, that's what they're seeking. Keep exploring until you find your gems. So I'm using a different painting here to really dive deeper into this longer explore stage, because this is where I find during my critiques with my masterclass that people often get stuck. And so when they submit their work to me to critique, I say, well, submit work that's in the explore or clarify stage, because play doesn't really matter. I'm not going to be able to critique something in play. But when you're an explorer and when you're getting stuck, yes, I might have some suggestions for you. So this painting, some of you may know, as my yellow painting grows up on YouTube, and I documented, I think, pretty much the whole process. And so here are just my top tips. Cover up colors that you don't like to have too much of. And in this case, I had too much yellow. Some people love the yellow painting and they're like, oh, don't cover it up. You can't listen to other people. It doesn't matter what other people think. This is your painting. And if you really don't love what you see, you got to have the courage to cover it up and not listen to the noise around you. That's why social media can be a little bit tough, because people may fall in love with the painting you just posted, but you're like, I'm not done yet. Okay. If you come to a standstill, try rotating your painting 90 degrees. Do it again and again. Every time you do that, you're going to see your work in a different way. Certain things will appeal to you more, and other things are going to appeal to you less. If you don't like the shapes you have, create new ones. Think of the shapes that you love. And this is important. The way that you can know the shapes that you love is to observe in your daily life. Because everywhere you go, you're driving in your car, you're going on vacation, you're going to the grocery store, you're picking up your kids from school, whatever, shapes are everywhere. And if you just get out your sketchbook and start to draw or write down, like, I love this shape, you're going to have this whole list of things that you love. Play with transparency and opacity and saturation. These are things that I really talk about in my course. So if these things don't sound, and you know what transparency and opacity is, and you probably know what saturation is, but how it applies to painting is very specific. And then notice here, like if you squint, you're going to notice that this portion of my painting is darker and this portion of my painting is lighter. I did that intentionally. So in explore, things are done with more intent than in play. Like you're starting to superimpose your feelings of things you like and know, like pattern and stripes and value, upon the play stage, because the play stage is what it is play. So you change the value to feature the things you love. And value is extremely important for defining those things that you love. Think about shapes, think about solids, patterns, lines, marks, and texture. So these are all little close-ups of the painting. And document your progress. This is a confidence builder. It was for me. This is what I've discovered over the last 2 years by using YouTube as kind of my way to post what I'm documenting. I'm really just sharing with you what I find helpful to myself. When I see myself painting in these YouTube videos, I'm like, oh, really? I did that? Like, I don't even realize what I'm doing when I'm painting. So you kind of spy on yourself. You'll witness how over and over your creativity turned your challenges into step stools. That's what we want to see them as, like not as a negative, but as a huge positive. When you have a challenge, you should celebrate, because if you didn't have a challenge, you wouldn't have to solve a problem. And only solving problems will move you forward. So here's a preview of possible changes that I used with digital programs such as Procreate or Photoshop. Let me see if I can get this to work here. There we go. Okay, now that went kind of fast. It's going to go again. Let me just explain that, I'm using this digital program to move this painting in a potential direction forward. So just keep in mind that if you want to learn something like Procreate or Photoshop, there are a lot of different very affordable programs through places like Skillshare or Udemy, or just Google that and you can find these very short and affordable courses.
We even have some on Teachable.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Aaron. All right, so yeah, here's a lot of text. I apologize, but you might want to take a photo of this particular screen, print it out, and post it on your studio wall or wherever it is that you're creative. How about a little positive self-talk in the explore stage? Because you're going to need it. So I kind of wrote this out thinking that these are the things that I feel are really important to be thinking about when you're stuck, when you feel like everything's bleak. Number one, I'm an observer. I'm not a critic of what I see. So you're observing and you're describing in visual language terms. This is bigger than that. This is more red. This is more orange. This is more textured. This is more smooth. That is visual language talk. And notice that it's just observing. It's not being critical. As I explore, I search for who I am, not who or what others want me to be. I will not stop until the colors I see are the ones I feel. So if you're having a good day, maybe your colors are more uplifting. But if you're having a somber, dark day, maybe they shouldn't be so bright and happy. When I see a shape I love, I will know it. And I am currently writing a book, and it kind of has to do with, pointing out that in your daily life, think about anything. When you know that you love something, you don't need somebody to tell you. If you have just eaten the best dish of your life, you don't have to have somebody tell you, oh, that's the best dish that you ever had in your life. Or you love this dress you're wearing. You don't need anyone to tell you that. You just know it. And the same will happen with your art. You will just know it. My painting and I are a team. I'll look closely for clues. I will be an opportunist. I will be flexible if I see a fork in the road. I'll keep those things that are well placed and happen at the right time, but I will let go of happy accidents that happen too early. I have confidence I can recreate the things I must say goodbye to now. In return, I will have clarity, strength, and a bond with this painting in front of me. I must promise myself I will continue until this painting and I feel at peace with each other. Only then can I express true authenticity, my personal voice, my artistic DNA. Explore is where the battle of the soul is lost or won. I will win if I don't quit, no matter how long it takes. You can give your painting a timeout. You can set it aside. You can look at it again in a year. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't quit and don't throw it away. So now we have made it through these 3 stages, which are the most challenging. And now our painting is growing up. It's gone from child to teen to adult. The hardest work is done. You're almost there. Slow down and make your voice clear. And keep in mind that progress can go in reverse. No matter where you are, you could be almost here at the end and all of a sudden, boom, you might get sent back here. You might get sent back here. Hopefully not all the way back to play, but it's happened. You're at the end, you're like, okay, it's pretty good, but nah, it's not that great. So then, go back to play and slap some more paint on, but don't throw it away. In Clarify, you found your diamonds in the rough. So now you've got to declutter, simplify, refine, and edit. This is a time for finesse and subtlety. These things, just like anything else, you're putting on your accessories, you're slowing things down here. These are not the big moves. These are the small ones. You are now a discerning adult, and sensitivity rules. When your gems are polished, you're ready to entertain your audience. Top tips for the Clarify stages. think about scale. And what that means is, notice I've got some very small things like these, very thin line. And then, there's some much bigger things. Do you have that in your painting? It's just something to consider. Thick versus thin. This is obviously very thick, and then this is very thin. How about values that are close? A value is how light or dark a color is. This is a little darker than that, but this is a lot lighter than that. So close values, that's very sensitive. It takes a lot of experience in mixing your colors to get values that are super, super, super close. Like this value and that, those are so close. In black and white, they might even be the same. Again, transparency versus opacity, wide versus narrow. This little line here is about as thin as you can get, for me anyways, with the tools I was using. These lines are a lot wider. Lights, midtones, darks. We're talking values again. Lights, midtones, darks. It's very important to develop this ability to see color in terms of value. And we often convert it into black and white. Hard versus soft edges. I'm a big edge promoter. So in my critiques and, in my course, I'm talking a lot about edge quality, something I learned way back in the watercolor days. I did some experiments and I was just fascinated by edge quality. So hard, soft, amorphous, and high saturation versus low saturation. We talked about that already. So focus on your sensitivity, navigation, and design principles, harmony, balance, variation, and repetition. But is perfection the goal? Well, in a perfect world, it would be easy to love our perfect paintings. However, our world is not perfect. We are not perfect. I speak for myself. And our paintings do not need to be perfect. We set the bar high and aim for love in our work. I'm always telling people, what do you love, right? But even in my own experience, I can count maybe 3 or 4 paintings that I absolutely love. And the rest, I aimed for love, but I almost love everything. If we can learn to love those things that touch the soul, evoke an emotion, and make us happy, this is success. And this is great work. So even if you fall short of loving every single thing in your painting, appreciate those things those things that you do love. And are there enough things that you love that you can call a painting finished? So I have a couple examples here of the 9 stages of creativity. This one, I think, may not. Yeah, sorry, that slide was out of place because I have a new one here. 9 stages of creativity. Here's example 1. And this is in a different painting than I showed a month ago. This one is encaustic. So the whole idea too about changing mediums on you, this is encaustic, which is painting with hot wax, is to show you that it doesn't matter what medium, it doesn't matter really what genre you're painting. And although I am a non-objective artist, an abstract artist, so perhaps the whole method of play is different for me than it would be for a realist artist. If you're a realist, play may be playing with your sketchbook and playing with different compositions, and you really nail it before you go into the explore stage. So that's what I mean by my 9 stages are very they're for my own process, but you can adapt it to your own. Okay, so with this painting, I did pick my palette at that time. This is in our old studio, the one that burned down. I remember it was a very tiny space, and I was trying to work on a pretty large painting. And I just remember heating up my palette of wax, and I just chose lots of random colors. And I mixed the colors on a hot plate. That's how you melt the wax. So here's my play stage. It was a 36 by 36 inch wooden panel. I played with scraping, gouging, adding RNF pigment sticks, and it's pretty, not that great in my opinion. These are some close-ups of various places, like this came from that and this came from that, just to show you that there was some detail. Then I entered the explore stage. This would be stage 4 because, going from this to this is saying, okay, I'm leaving. I'm going to this new place now. This is a new place. It was very, very scary to me because I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know where I was going. And, it's that whole thing. But by the time I got here, I started to kind of think, well, I've done a lot of work here. Shouldn't it be good by now? But I was starting to see some interesting things. And I remember calling in like this gallery that I'm represented by. They happened to be doing a gallery visit, and they liked it and I liked it. But that wasn't really what I was after. I knew something wasn't right. This felt extremely risky to me at the time. I kind of liked how minimalistic the play stage was. In the end, it didn't stand the test of time. So I dove back in with lots of paint. Here, I use digital software, Photoshop, to play with potential solutions. I'm looking for gems, whether it's digital, whether it's the actual painting, and at least digitally, I did see the possibilities. Now it's time to use these ideas and make it happen in the actual painting. So look at what I did here. I had a hard line. I made this darker. There's some reveal here. You can do that with digital software. So I just played with shape, but it's so much clearer what's going on when you know what you're doing with value. So then this also felt risky. This is kind of like stages 5 and 6. I kind of know what I want now. Now I have to get it. I know what treasures I want. I have to get them. I covered the entire painting up with white paint. Everything's gone. And I started to scrape away that white paint, and you start to see new things. And that's when I started to develop my gems. I don't have those images. I didn't document the whole process, but this was the final painting. It had a predominance of light values, which are basically down here. That allowed the midtones, which are like this and that, and even like these saturated areas to really stand out. Small areas of saturation like red and yellow provided punctuation, like red here and yellow here. Finesse and subtlety with mark making, edges, and refining shape and value. So here's another example. I showed this last time, but I feel like this one's a little bit more thorough. I documented every step. So this painting was done in acrylic and mixed media, and it's called Up and Away. Again, the play stages, there are 3 of them. You got to choose your colors. I chose random colors. You start to mix your colors, and I explored my values. Here's a value scale over here. In the beginning, I took my squeeze bottles, I turned them upside down, and I remember like this paint was super, super thick. Obviously, I'm having a great time, and I have to let this dry. And then after it dried, I covered the top with gray, and I covered the bottom with this yellow ochre. I had to let that dry, and then I scraped with sandpaper. So scrape, sand, scrub. This is all, just being an inner child and having a lot of fun. I played some more by adding some monoprints, the blue and the ochre and the red, and, added more paint. Again, I covered the whole thing with white, and I took a nap. Just had to let it dry. Scraped that white paint away. That's a lot of work. I might have used an orbital sander. I can't remember. But as the painting progressed, and now we're kind of at stage 4. This is the beginning of the explore stage. Okay, so I started to see these things. I mean, some things I put in, other things became revealed as I scraped that white paint away. I thought these 2 shapes were a bit risky. Like, wow, that's kind of crazy. They're kind of cool, but the more I lived with it, I realized that, not really me. So no problem, just paint it out. Notice I painted this out. I painted part of this out, and I immediately felt better. So stage 4, experiment, take risks. And after playing as a child, you explore, you enter the explore stage using more intent, and you experiment and you take risks. Wild shapes, crazy patterns, concealing, revealing, and I watch for the treasures that I seek. I'm looking for something that's going to appeal to me. Here, I tried to make this shape because I didn't know, maybe I'd like it, but no, I did not. So I painted it out. After lots of experimentation and risk-taking, I see potential treasure here and here. Like I like the WWW. I like this droplet here. I mean, I like the variation of shape and line and, and value here, but these are just diamonds in the rough. They're certainly not anywhere near done. I then painted this weird thing, and it reminded me of like a toilet seat. So that wasn't going to be good for me. So I just painted out the top one, and I was ended up with like this shape, which I really like. So I kind of circled that as another potential gem. I went into this teardrop and I put some Stabilo blue, and I love that. I didn't love this, but I did love that. So now I had 4 areas of my painting that I really, really loved. So now we take the painting forward. It's now in the clarify stage. I've got to edit things away. I've got too much junk going on. So I created an imperfect semi-transparent high key grid, which just means light, over the entire painting. It gave structural complexity, and it simplified many textural areas. Final touches, small changes included that I went from here to here. Notice how it's a little bump in the white. And then here I didn't like this. It felt kind of weighty, so I made it a lighter value. This, on the other hand, felt too dark. It felt like part of that shape, but I didn't want that. So I lightened that so that just the shape would stand out here. And then I didn't really feel like I needed this green square here. So I just painted that out. And then I just further, the last thing I did, I think I remember this too, is I increased saturation of the red just for a little pop of color. And that was it. Entertain your audience. I reviewed my design elements. I reviewed the balance. I turned my painting in 4 directions. Did it feel balanced? Did the final varnish. I put the frame and wire on, and I signed my name. So that was that. So now, isn't it time to make your best art? Yes, it's time to take your art to the next level. This is really, really critical. You're here because you want your art to be better. So I'm offering you a Black Friday special. This is different from last time. This time I'm actually throwing in a free course. So if you purchase my Powerful Design and Personal Color course, and I'll explain why I feel like this is the one course you absolutely must have. You will get my acrylic and mixed media techniques online course for free. Now, everything I've talked about today is the focus of this course right here. I fill your visual artist toolbox to the brim with color and design principles, which a lot of us don't get, even in art school. I did not get a lot of this stuff in art school. Watch over my shoulder as I play, explore, and finish 17 paintings. That's from beginning to end. So in this course, I do 16 paintings. And in this course, I do 1 from beginning to end. In this course, I work in cold wax and oil. And in this course, I work in acrylic and mixed media, so that if you're an acrylic artist, yes, you can definitely take this course. And you'll even learn a lot more about technique in this course. You go at your own pace. I've got demos, presentations, and PDFs, and it is much like a college course that I taught. There are 2 courses combined, over 30 hours of demos and training. So by the end of these courses, I mean, you're not going to be able to get my voice out of your head. I'm warning you about that. People have told me that. You have lifetime access to the course. It's no like 3 months and then you can't have access, or 1 year and then it's no access. It's available 24/7, and then there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So at the University of Montana, which is where I got my MFA, they are starting to go online, and my Powerful Design and Personal Color course was recently taken for 3 credits, and I was just thrilled. I thought that was so great. My 2 most popular courses together, lifetime access, available 24/7. These are the 16 paintings that I do a demonstration of. So it's 11 plus hours of video presentations and PDFs, valued at $1,100. My chart, valued at $50. 2 plus hours of bonus videos, all the way down to the bottom with a private Facebook group. Total value being around $2,200, and that's very comparable to other courses I've seen out there, which offer similar content but with a limited access. And I did a lot of like comparison pricing, just so that you know. This course, on the other hand, is less hours, but I still take you from beginning to end, all the way to the framing, and I show you a special way to varnish acrylic painting so it looks like an encaustic. And that's valued at $850. So if you put the 2 together, it would be $3,050, but for all artists out there, I believe in making these courses affordable because I don't think that education's affordable. So I lowered this to $599, and this is $149 for a grand total of $748. But with my special, you're only going to pay $598, and that gives you my acrylic course for free. So this is the website, but Teachable has made a very special link for you. It's teachable.com/Pamela. So the offer expires on Friday, November 30th, midnight Eastern Standard Time. Again, save $150 and enroll in both of my online courses, and you will really, really be set to create your best art. I can tell you that because I've seen it happen. So thank you, everybody. And does anyone have any questions?
We do have some questions coming in. And if Pam, if it's cool, I'm going to pull the presentation off. It's just me and you.
Yeah.
When Pam mentioned that link as well, above us, there should actually be a button that would take you to Pam's bundle as well. So feel free to click that. It should say, get Pam's course now. Also, when we send out this replay, we'll also have a link to the bundle of courses Pam just mentioned. But hopping into some of these questions, and folks, we have about 9 minutes left. So if you have any questions that aren't in the chat yet, this is the perfect time to put them in. A question I'm not sure if you're ready to answer yet is, what is the title of the new book?
Oh, it's a secret.
That's what I said. I wasn't sure if you were ready yet.
No.
Gotta ask, right?
Not spilling any beans here. Sorry.
We'll move on from that one. A follow-up question is, obviously you work in large scale. It's part of what you do. I mean, how long did it take you to get there? Can you speak a bit about your progression?
Going from small scale to large scale? I definitely recommend that for all artists, like, you become comfortable with whatever size you're working on, and then you gradually go from, say, a 5x7 inch to a 12x12 inch to a 24x24 inch to a 36x36 inch, because that way it won't be a shock. The shock for me, and this is even happening to me right now, I'm working on a canvas in my studio, and it's only 3x6 feet, but the difference is that I've never worked on canvas, and then I gessoed it. So my paint is being soaked up like a sponge, and I'm finding out that I can't use the same palette I normally do. So if you just do it gradually, then you're going to kind of gradually make your tools bigger. Your mounds of paint are going to get bigger, and you're going to realize you need a lot more material to finish your work. So it's a gradual progression. Great question. Got it.
Thank you, Pam. Another question that came in from Mindy is, how important is it to have an MFA degree? This is in your opinion, of course.
Yeah. So when I pursued grad school, I had no intention of ever teaching. I, at that time, was so scared of teaching that I was freaking out. And most people get their MFA because they want to teach. That's usually what the MFA is all about. But for me, the reason I got my MFA was because I knew something was missing. I was self-taught, and here's what I found. And if you can do this without grad school, without art school, then just do it. And what I found that I learned from graduate school was that it was the content of what I was trying to say that was important. Now, I did go through a phase where my work became very kind of science-based and based on global issues. But once I purged that out of my system, then I experienced that connection between life and your art. So the most important thing that you ever get from an MFA, and a lot of people don't get this at all, is that you want to figure out a way to align your art with your life. They need to be meshed together, and that they need to inform each other. So if you're having a good day, that's one way to express yourself. If you're having a bad day, that's another way. If you can do that, you don't need an MFA. An MFA allows you to teach, but everything I do with teaching is outside the school system. I teach independently, so no, you don't really need an MFA.
Thank you, Pam. A question was asked earlier in your presentation when you were showing perhaps how you model digitally, and you also bring that back into the physical, is what kind of paints do you use to get some of the transparencies that you achieve? And it was hard to tell because some of that is things you obviously do digitally. Can you speak a bit to that? Because you do use both mediums.
It's really important. And this is where, you need some technical information when you bounce from medium to medium. But one reason I wanted to show you an example of my encaustic work is because it's such a different medium. I mean, you're not waiting for paint to dry. You're waiting for paint to cool before you can do anything. Transparency, but the good thing about that is that no matter what medium you're working in, as far as fluid paint or let's say hot wax, colors are they're usually labeled on your tube or they're labeled on the little block of wax as being transparent, semi-transparent, opaque, semi-opaque. So like titanium white is going to be opaque no matter what medium you're working in. A quinacridone is always going to be transparent no matter what medium you're working in. Viridian, Phthalose, they're all transparent. So part of it is like you need to learn about color to understand their properties. There are 3 different ways to describe color. And actually the opacity or transparency is not even one of them. So there's a little bit of homework you need to do. But again, that's something that you'll learn that in time.
And it's the same kind of vein. A question is, a couple folks asked, what kind of varnish is used to make the acrylic look like the encaustic?
Yeah, that's something that I talk about in my course because it's a 4-step process and it takes kind of like 4 different stages that are very distinct and have to be done at the right time. So it's not the kind of thing where I can lay it all out right now, because if I tell you...
We only have a few minutes left too.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, a follow-up question about your course then, 2 different things. One, someone asked, when does your course start? I know your course, once you purchase, you have kind of instant access.
Yes. Yes, you did.
Another piece with that is there an opportunity, if someone takes your course, is there an opportunity to ask questions?
Yes. To you? Yes. So in this particular special, the Black Friday special, you have access to my Powerful Design and Personal Color private Facebook group, where I'm there and you get to be with a lot of other students who are very supportive and encouraging. And I also have a Q&A database. So if you don't get your question answered in the Facebook group, you can ask me that way. You can go one step further and join my masterclass where I'm there a lot. And I do 2 live calls every month where I critique people's work. So there's a lot of opportunities. It's kind of like jump in, get started. There's a lot of support within the Facebook group and then beyond.
Got it. We have only a few minutes left, so I'll try to grab a few more questions. One of the ones that I saw was, now that you work in the larger scale, are you ever interested in perhaps working smaller again, or do you still do smaller medium work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've heard people say once they go large, it's really hard to go small. And in some ways I agree with that. And that's all the more reason to do it. So right now, what I'm working on, I'm working toward a show. So when you're working toward a show, I'd love to play with scale. And what I'd love to do is have the really large, big, piece, but then have lots of tiny ones that are more affordable. And so I constantly bounce back and forth because I want that challenge. I don't want to be I can only work large now, but I can't work small. You don't want to have any limitations. And once you understand design and color, the size just doesn't matter anymore. And especially digitally, when you show something on Instagram or Facebook or anything else, your website, you might say 6 by 6 inches, but if a person didn't know that, they might think it's 6 feet by 6 feet. So yeah, I work in all sizes. Great question.
Incredible. One question I just saw asked with a few more left is this recorded? Can I access the recording? This was recorded and there will be a replay available. At the workshop link you joined today, we'll actually be hosting the replay. We will also email out a link to this replay after the fact. The replay for this course will be available until November 30th, the same time as Pam's bundle is going to be available. And if you're watching this right now and you joined late, just go back to the beginning. You can watch us from the beginning right now in the play video. Feel free, we don't mind. One more question, Pam. I'm just going to grab one more because I know we're at time here. Is how can I get feedback on my work that I do using your techniques? Stacy asks that.
Yeah, I mean, the feedback, again, I would encourage you to, if you're in my PDPC course, you can post a question, you can tag my name. I also have admin support there. And again, I have different levels of participation. The more that you want from me, then I certainly have things in place. I did that because not everybody wants critique on their work, but if you do, then you really need to consider my masterclass. I also have like a Watch and Grow library with over 80 hours of video. It's $9 a month. And people who are in that, sometimes they'll email me a question. I have a Q&A section of my website where you can submit a question, and I always answer them. So I'm not too far away. And I want to thank also, sorry.
I was going to say, you had a bunch of your masterclass students in the chat today. They were chiming in saying they're part of Pam's masterclass, and they were saying hi.
Yes, I love my masterclass. I love my Powerful Design personal color class too. I love all my classes. And I want to thank you, Aaron, and on behalf of Teachable for allowing me to share my presentation with people and for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And Teachable has been a wonderful platform for me. Highly recommend it to all of you out there who might be considering your own online course. It's a great time to do it. So
we appreciate that, Pam. I love having you on these. I learned so much, and they're just so fun to watch. We are at time. Everyone who's in the chat, please give a round of applause. Tell Pam that you appreciate her. Pam, I appreciate you. You obviously make my life easier by having an incredibly interesting and wonderful workshop to present to the world. We are at time. We're going to go offline here in a second. Again, thank you for joining us so much on DiscoverFest Day 4. This was the wonderful Pam Caughey. We'll be posting the replay shortly. Everyone have a wonderful afternoon. Or wherever
Thank you, everybody. Bye now.
Bye-bye.